if Coca-Cola had a bunch of people no longer drinking Coca-Cola, you'd want to actually go interview people who used to drink Coca-Cola and ask them, how come you're not drinking Coca-Cola anymore? I don't get the sense of that at all. There's still this idea, oh, no, if we just sell it better, if we just do it better. And then on the last comment, it's just kind of interesting. I do think what happened to the Democratic Party is they kept comparing Biden to Trump rather than Biden to what a president should be able to do. And I think it was like, well, Trump's kind of out there and it's good enough to go against Trump. Well, no, like that shouldn't have been but I do think whatever that explanation is, I think it all had to do with them judging Biden through the prism of, well, Trump's sort of out there, so it's good enough for that.
Ashley Allison, what do you think?
Look, in 2022, after the midterms, I said if you want to run for president and be the Democratic nominee, anybody who wants to run should be able to run. Unfortunately, nobody, well, a couple people, but
Dean Phillips.
Right, Dean Phillips stepped up. Democrats, we should have had a primary for this midterm election. And we didn't. And so now we're living with the consequences of it. I hope that our party wakes up and realizes it. And that me saying that doesn't mean that I don't respect Joe Biden. But there's a reality in that we should have given our voters an opportunity to make a decision for themselves. And by the time we had to make a decision, it was too late.
By the way, it's just 3 straight nominations where Democratic voters didn't get a chance to pick the nominee. The elites picked Hillary Clinton, the elites picked Joe Biden, and the elites picked Kamala Harris. There was no actual set of voters who felt like they had a say in this.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. A little too late. Notice how in this entire exchange, there was no confrontation, there was no rebuttal, there was no challenge. It was a moment of clarity and acceptance of realizing the truth, and the truth being that, number one, not only were Democrats trying to compare Joe Biden to Trump, they were more than likely trying to compare Joe Biden to a Trump that wasn't actually real. It was the false, made up, fictitious version of Trump that the media tried to create, which I'm going to show you guys that more in just a second. Again, Democrats, not even in this moment realizing how they truly made the greatest mistake of allowing the elites to pick and choose instead of actually protecting democracy and holding a primary and letting the people choose. So in essence, they pawn off and they shove someone in your face, down your throat, as if this is who you want, even though it's not. Then they try and lie through the media to convince everyone else that this is exactly who they need, and it's not. And then when they lose, they don't even take a moment to realize, why aren't we drinking Coca-Cola anymore?
Somebody has to say it, so let me be crystal clear. Barack Obama is not the president of the United States. He does not have the authority to speak on behalf of our country, and he does not represent our people. And he definitely does not have the right to hold foreign meetings as if he's sitting in the Oval Office. For 8 long years, we watched him put America last. Then his policies continued destroying America under Biden for another 4 years. Biden, a puppet for everything Obama left behind. And now he thinks he can go globetrotting, sitting at NATO tables, making promises to foreign nations. Excuse me, sir, no. We have one president at a time. And as of right now, that's President Donald J. Trump. If Obama is not smart enough to try to conduct foreign policy without the authority of the White House, he's not just breaking the law, he is violating the trust of every single American citizens who expect the election to mean something. The Hatch Act is clear, the Constitution is clear. And to Obama and everybody else who's trying to operate a shadow presidency, consider President Donald J. Trump's words your warning. You don't get to speak for us, and you don't get to act like you're in charge. America is taking its voice back. We don't need you, we don't need your failed policies, or your backdoor diplomacy. Sit down, stay out, and remember, you had your shot, and you didn't do a good job.
We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote. This is one of the things, though, that this is going to take power to the streets. I don't know what the answer is on this, but I've been saying this. I think we need a shadow government, so when all these things come up every single day, we've got an alternate press conference telling the truth about what things are happening.
For some reason, I don't think Tim Walz really means the truth when he says that. It's kind of like Avengers when Loki comes down to Earth and he tells Nick Fury that he brings peace. Nick Fury says, I kind of think you mean the other thing. But either way, be that as it may, they're saying the quiet part out loud, mainly because they're stupid. They don't understand, they don't realize how dumb they are, or better yet, how smart and intelligent we are. Not quite sure which one it is. Maybe it's both. Benny Johnson shares, outside of the electrical nightmare that happened in Spain yesterday, this, ironic, perhaps, Canada's election website just crashed as polls closed.
Yeah, one developing story, Omar, that we're keeping a close eye on. The Elections Canada website appearing to be down for some Canadians, for many right now going on the website. This is what they're seeing. We actually experienced it here in our breaking news center as well, though we were able to get on another computer, though some people taking to social media tonight, sending out tweets like this on X. Patrick saying elections.ca isn't working for me. Does anyone else have this issue? An obvious concern, Rachel.
Yeah, so Bashi and Omar, we have reached out direct.
What's the old saying? If you can't beat them, join them. Well, it seems like if you can't beat them, pull the plug, crash the website, destroy the server, and then just tell the people who they voted for and who's going to now be their leader, their president, the man or woman in charge. And if you believe that, then I've got a bridge to sell you that will take you from reality to the fake tappers part of the world, where CNN and fake tapper actually blurred out the mugshots of the criminal, illegal immigrant killers, rapists, drug traffickers, and other scumbags displayed on the White House lawn. How freaking sick. Most people would want child rapists exposed. It seems as though Jake Tapper would rather protect them, blurring their faces like they're the real victims. Horrific.
The Trump administration is approaching its first 100-day mark with a full court press on the issue of illegal immigration, and they really don't want you to miss it. So they subtly and tastefully deck the White House North lawn with dozens of yard signs featuring photos of people that the Trump administration claims are in the country illegally, each poster saying arrested and listing the alleged offensive with which they have been charged. CNN's working to confirm the identities and if there are actual allegations against these people. Until then, we are blurring their identities.
CNN and Jake Tapper want to blur their identities. It's almost as if they don't want you to know who they really are. Kind of like CBS did with Kamala Harris in this 60 Minutes interview that they deceptively edited. Although CNN's Abby Phillip claims, as she sits here talking to Kevin O'Leary, that it was not deceptively edited. And Kamala Harris, before the 2024 election, was being her true self.
That issue with CBS is being litigated, but it's not likely to be successful.
I'm glad it's being litigated.
Because editing interviews is allowed in the United States of America, and it wasn't edited deceptively. But anyway, we're moving on because that is not part of the conversation.
Even though we have seen the raw footage, the changes that were made, the trailer versus the movie.
Poll numbers are consistently bad right now. I mean, they have moved downward even on issues that he ran on, like cost of living, immigration, and he wants to project strength and joy, or something. I don't even know it's joy, just strength. This is an age-old tactic in White Houses, right? We're going to tell everybody everything's great.
If it's not Abby Phillip and CNN, then it's Jen Saki and MSNBC, which seemingly here, an ironic title for her show, Inside Jen Saki. Not quite sure anybody really wants to be there. Jen Saki tries to paint President Trump as a monster while Ashley Parker of The Atlantic doesn't bite. Get that? Saying he was charming, he was charismatic. He is everything that you don't want people to know that he really is.
That's what he kind of said in the interview. He seemed to try to be attempting to project that. They're doing other interviews. Why do you, is that really his mental space, or is this sort of a tactic from the White House to just try to project that? So a couple of things. One thing about, I think he is trying to project strength. I think one reason he specifically brought us in at The Atlantic and included for the second interview Jeff Goldberg, the editor-in-chief, was it was a little bit of game respects game. He had said in his second Truth Social post that Signalgate was somewhat successful. So Jeff asked him, what did you mean by that? Did you mean that we revealed, operational security flaws that the administration has now fixed? And President Trump basically said, no, you were successful essentially because you got publicity for your story and you really owned that news cycle. And again, that's another window into the president. And also when we were there, he was, and people who know him know this, he has the capacity, he was charming, he was charismatic, and his goal in that moment was to win us, and most specifically Jeff, over. So that was one of the reasons he did it. But we did put the question to him. We said, look, the first 100 days have sort of been the easy stuff, so to speak, right? It's these executive orders. You come in. Now we're in the middle of tariffs, waiting to see what happens after this 90-day pause. The war in Ukraine still isn't over. Are we getting into the hard part? And his answer was interesting. He said, it still feels softer. And by that, he meant compared to his first term, it still feels, I don't necessarily know in his heart how strong he feels, but for him and his team, it still feels so demonstrably different than the Trump who came in 2017.
Well, he's also not a convicted felon. There's that too. It's deceptive. It's downright wrong. It's those on the left who have completely lost it. Derek Evans says, I seriously wonder how long we can peacefully coexist with people like this. Not quite sure.
I'm a proud American too. That doesn't mean you have to be proud of the Cheeto that's in charge right now. The Cheeto? Of the Cheeto that's in charge. Seriously, take it off. Take it off. Making America great. Do you think what's happening right now is making America great? Are you serious? Yeah. You're serious? You're proud to be with your husband? You're proud of this? You're proud of the man that you married? You're proud of this? Take it off. I'm so serious. Get off. Get out of here.